Ringo Starr doesn't really work. Ringo Starr, fabulous.
When fans think of Ringo Starr, they picture the affable Beatle with the steady beat and easygoing charm, the peace and love ambassador flashing his famous thumbs up. But behind that genial public image was a seasoned drummer with sharp ears, strong opinions, and a deep understanding of musical chemistry. While he maintained a diplomatic persona in interviews, those close to him witnessed moments when Ringo's patience wore thin, especially when it came to certain bands that didn't meet his rhythmic standards. Today on Rock Fame Diaries, we're counting down 6 iconic bands that reportedly got under Ringo Starr's skin, and why even some of rock's most legendary names couldn't escape the sharp, silent judgment of the Beatles' backbeat. 6. The Rolling Stones. The cool double standard. The rivalry between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones is the stuff of legend, but Ringo's frustration was personal. While John Lennon traded witty jabs with Mick Jagger, Ringo reportedly zeroed in on Charlie Watts. According to Beatles roadie Kevin Harrington, Ringo would watch Watts' stripped-down drumming style and mutter, "He's even more basic than I am, and they call him cool, while they call me boring." This perceived double standard lingered for years. Producer Jeff Emmerich recalled Ringo examining Charlie's drum setup at Abbey Road and scoffing, "Barely touched. He's not playing the drums. He's just reminding people they're still there." Despite a friendship with Charlie, Ringo never shook the feeling that critics misunderstood what real drumming finesse looked like. 5. Led Zeppelin. Loud doesn't mean better. While many considered John Bonham one of the greatest drummers in rock history, Ringo Starr apparently didn't share the enthusiasm. During a 1968 session where Bonham and Jimmy Page were studio musicians, sound engineer Eddie Kramer reported that Ringo watched Bonham's thunderous style and muttered, "This bloke doesn't know the difference between playing drums and attacking them." As Zeppelin's star rose, Ringo's frustration grew. "Anyone can be loud," he reportedly said. "The real skill is knowing when not to play." Starr, a champion of musical restraint, saw Bonham's showy style as everything he tried to avoid behind the kit. In Ringo's view, Bonham turned music into spectacle, and the critics rewarded him for it. 4. Cream. Where's the band? Cream, the explosive supergroup featuring Ginger Baker, Eric Clapton, and Jack Bruce, epitomized the late 60s turn toward virtuosic soloing and musical bravado. Ringo reportedly hated it. After watching an early Cream performance, he allegedly walked out and told Brian Epstein, "That's not a band. It's 3 soloists fighting for space. The drummer thinks he's the conductor." For Ringo, a band should serve the song, not the ego. He saw Cream's power trio dynamic as chaos masquerading as artistry.
Neil Aspinall recalled Ringo saying, "Ginger plays like he's got 6 arms, and none of them are listening to each other." It wasn't a question of talent, Ringo respected that, but rather of purpose. To him, Cream's music was technical brilliance without soul.
3. The Who. A bloody circus. If there was one drummer who stood at philosophical odds with Ringo, it was Keith Moon. According to Beatles associate Tony Barrow, Ringo saw Moon perform in 1965 and quipped to Neil Aspinall, "That drummer doesn't play with the band. He competes with them. It's a bloody circus act." While critics hailed Moon's wild, limb-defying style as genius, Ringo reportedly rolled his eyes. "Listen to him flailing away like he's fighting off wasps," he allegedly said after hearing, "I can see for miles." Ringo didn't see musicality in Moon's theatrics, only noise. Even socially, the two drummers clashed. Musician Klaus Vormann remembered Ringo once confiding, "I've spent my career trying to make songs better. He spent his trying to make sure everyone notices him."
2. The Monkees. Manufactured mop tops. Ringo had a particularly thorny view of the Monkees, the American TV band widely seen as a Beatles knockoff. When their show premiered in 1966, Ringo reportedly fumed, "They've taken our mop tops, our humor, and even our bloody musical style, but at least
they had the decency to get a proper drummer." Even as the Monkees began playing their own instruments and writing music, Starr wasn't impressed. After hearing Headquarters, he allegedly said, "It's like watching a puppet show where the puppets start claiming they don't have strings." What irked Ringo most was the media constantly comparing the two bands. On the Beatles' 1967 US tour, when reporters brought up the Monkees yet again, Ringo reportedly snapped backstage, "Next journalist who asks me about those television musicians is getting my drumstick in their eye." 1. The Beach Boys. One-beat wonders. While the Beatles respected the Beach Boys' studio innovations, Ringo reportedly couldn't stand their rhythm section. Early on, he allegedly complained to Brian Epstein, "Their drummer just plays the same bloody pattern on every song. If I did that, you'd sack me." His irritation deepened when he learned Brian Wilson was using session drummers instead of Dennis Wilson. "At least when people criticize my drumming, they're actually criticizing me, not some hired hand," he reportedly told engineer Norman Smith. Ringo also criticized the band's live performances. Tour manager Bob Bonus claimed Ringo once said, "Your boys have two good singers and fancy harmonies, but they've got a rhythm section that couldn't swing if you hung them from the rafters."
Ringo Starr might be remembered for his modesty and good nature, but behind the smiles was a musician with a clear vision for what great drumming and great music should sound like. While he rarely aired his grievances in public, those in the know heard his true thoughts, and they reveal a drummer who took his craft far more seriously than many ever gave him credit for.
If you enjoyed this look behind the beat, subscribe now to Rock Fame Diaries, where we uncover the untold stories behind your favorite music legends. Until next time, keep the rhythm alive. God bless.